Hey folks, David here with the Tomb Runners Designer Diary number 11. So yesterday I did that really long, almost 40-minute video talking about how excited I am about the GM screen here and going over some of the language for the core rule for the narrative D20 system and asking for feedback on how the clarity is on that and talking about the intent of it at play and everything. But today I want to do the opposite. Instead of going over what I've been working on or anything, I want to put some of that to use here. And I've made 4 character builds, and I want to showcase and highlight the character build options and show you that how, even though the system is so simple, that all the rules for the system in the game fit on one small A5 page here, and the character build options only take up 4 pages here in the book. So in the book you have character creation, and then this page is heritage. That's the rules for character creation, heritage and job, and then 3 pages of feats. But within that system, within this little bit of mechanical prescriptive design, there is an incredible amount of depth and versatility for character builds. Basically, I tell people, think about your character concept, and then I'll help you build it or look through the options there and figure out what fits that concept. So I built 4 of the traditional archetypical characters. And let's go over the character creation process here as well before I get into the options I selected for these characters. So your character creation process is select 1 core stat that gets a plus and 1 that gets a minus. So you get advantage on 1 action roll of a stat and disadvantage on another. You're really good at one thing and less good at another. And your other 2 stats will be neutral. Your HP and SP start at 7 by default. You select a heritage in your job. The heritages are all one-time bonuses. Well, luck is ongoing, but they're bonuses to the core stuff in the game, the core character creations. They inform a little bit of narrative about your character's background and the society they come from and the people, and that's why it's not race, it's heritage. So you could be a hardy dwarf or a lucky dwarf or human, whatever. You could flavor it however you want, but the mechanical bonuses are tied into those narrative leaning names. So you have hardy, venerable, lucky, and adaptable, and those grant hardy gives you plus 3 HP at character creation, so you're just tougher. Venerable gives you plus 2 SP, so you can just do more stuff. Lucky lets you get plus 1 luck at downtime, so you get 2 luck per downtime. And then adaptable just gives you 1 more feat at character creation. And these are all really powerful. There's a little bit of balance work here because plus 3 HP versus 2 SP, those are the same amount you get when you level up. So they're basically letting you start 1 level higher on those. Same with the adaptable, you get 1 more feat from character creation, and that's what you get when you level up as well. So the level up process, you spend 5 supply times your current level, and you gain 3 HP, 2 SP, and 1 feat. Very simple, very straightforward. And that also mostly aligns with the harm and the tier progression system of D6. So on average, a D6 or the probability, the bell curve of D6 pools is about 3 to 3.5 per additional. So if you roll 3d6 on average, that's going to come out to about a 9. Similarly to 9-10 range, similarly to 2d6 averaging about a 7. The 6 to 8 range being the most common. So all of this ties in basically with that same curve. So it all has a very predictable curve to your player power. But the feats, especially having an extra SP and the feats that you can combine with all of your levels, really adds a lot of character power. So going over the jobs, these are all the mechanical ties to downtime. So they give you additional bonuses to downtime activities like gaining extra supply when you work, or giving you crafting jobs like alchemist or engineer or blacksmith or scribe for crafting scrolls. So these let you either make things better or give you the ability to make them at all. So blacksmith, anyone can repair or craft items, but if you take blacksmith, your crafted items are 1 tier higher for armor and weapons and shields. Similarly, alchemist can craft potions, and if you have a spell casting feat, then you can also craft magical potions. So regular potions would be things like smoke bombs, explosives, fire bombs, poisons, like chemical potions. And then magical potions would be whatever school you have. You can have magical effects that match the spells that you know. Same with scribe making scrolls. And then your feats are arranged by archetype here. So there's an icon at the top of the page on top of the columns that kind of match the general feat type. So for the warrior, it's an axe. This is an updated art. I finished it. For the rogues, it's a dagger. For the clerics and paladins, it's a shield. And then for the spellcasters, it's a spell book. So you have this column is all the fighter type feats. This is all the cleric type feats. This is all the rogue. This is all the spellcasters. You can mix and match as you like. It's all make your own. So for like a paladin, you would mix some stuff from the cleric healer page or column and some of the fighter stuff. Very, very straightforward. Or you could go the opposite way and have more of a smiting magic user paladin and mix some of the holy feats with some of the spellcaster stuff. And the last page is the kind of hybrid feats. These are the ones that lean more towards druids, rangers, and bards. Those are the kind of other three most common archetypes. And these, they don't have as many. That's why there's only 2 columns for the 3 different archetypes. But they're intended to be mixed with the others naturally because those are generally more hybrid classes. So for example, if you wanted to play a ranger, you could mix it with the spellcasting feats to have that type of ranger, the more magic-based ranger. Or you could mix some of the ranger feats like aim shot with the fighter feats like some of the warrior feats like fighter that lets you have a favorite weapon that you're more effective in combat with. So you could be more of that strictly using a bow from range, just harrying foes with arrows, physical ranger. Some of these are also more narrative, mechanical tied. They kind of bridge the gap a little more. So things like tracking or vigil. So vigil is a druid flavored feat that lets you have, if you spend downtime in the wild, your party gets a free heal action. That's really powerful mechanically, but it also ties in narratively because that feat's not going to be as useful for a dungeon crawling style play, but it's going to be really strong if you're doing a lot of overland travel and adventuring and hex crawl style play, because you're going to have a lot of natural downtime in the wild. So granting your party that bonus heal action is really strong mechanically, and also ties to the flavor of what kind of game you're playing. One other really fun hybrid idea for the druid, you could mix it traditionally with spellcasting if you want to be that type of druid, or you could go the shape-shifting druid route and mix it with the fighter. So you could pick shape-shifting and say you wanted to be like a werebear druid. You mix the shape-shifting with some of the fighter stuff that makes them a little tankier, and then all of a sudden, instead of a spellcasting druid, you're get in the mix as a bear druid and really smash things up and have that natural armor and bark skin and stuff like that. So you can really create a really flavorful variety of classes even within one archetype or traditional class with this make your own class system. So to go over the 4 I made, these are all what I would call like core classes, traditional ideas. I made a barbarian, a paladin, a wizard, and a rogue. The rogue one is a little different than traditional. I wanted to show just like how you can mix things up a little bit, but the others are pretty standard, and I wanted to show how powerful those standards can be, even if you have like a one-dimensional type character. And by one-dimensional, really, I just mean you have a strong concept for your character, much like the bear druid. Saying I'm a bear druid tells everybody exactly how that character operates, and the game supports the mechanical options to back that up. So let's go over, first off, we'll start with the fighter I made. This is, I wanted to make a traditional Conan style barbarian. So this is a unarmored, two-handed, axe-wielding, fighting, archetype. So this character has, his name's Urku, which is a name I've used in games for a long time for this type of barbarian fighter. So they have the Heritage Hardy, so they get an additional 3 HP from the start. So they have 10 HP. 7 SP, 1 luck, and they've spent all their supply at character creation. They have advantage with brawn and disadvantage with mind. So they're really good at smashing and fighting, and they're less good at intelligence-based action rolls. For their job, I gave them soldier, which grants them +2 inventory slots. And I'll explain the thought behind that, because I didn't give them any items, even though they have an additional 2 item slots. So their only items, and actually I'm going to take one out. I gave them a short bow, and I'm going to take that out to fit create the concept a little better here. So for their feats, they have heroic. Heroic lets them spend 2 stress points to perform an incredible feat of strength without an action roll, and that recharges with downtime. It's a 1 use per downtime ability because it's so strong. So that's just that I want to do some incredible act of strength. I want to show, display the ability to push a boulder off a ledge and clear the way, or knock it on a dragon or something like that. Smash through an iron door that's barred, that kind of thing. They can just spend 2 SP and do it. They also have fighter, which gives them a reduction on the cost of pushing with their favorite weapon when they're attacking with their favorite weapon. So this barbarian has his favorite axe, and that's the only thing he fights with. He loves to fight with that axe. And so when he pushes, he gets an additional 1d6 in melee combat when he's attacking with his axe. And then instead of costing 2 SP, it costs 1 SP. So he can just push, make sure his attacks with his axe are hitting. And then lastly, I gave the character Rage as his 3rd feat. And Rage lets him spend HP as SP. So now he can push with 1 HP instead of spending SP. And then the thought behind that for this character is he can perform resist rolls more frequently now using SP, because he has no armor. He can't rely on armor to reduce his harm. He's going to need to resist a lot. So he's going to be using his 7 SP mostly for resisting if he gets into danger. When he, jumps in, no thoughts, just attack, just smashing stuff. Oh, found out I'm in danger. I rolled badly on something, and now I'm facing a consequence. Let me resist that. So instead of using all of his SP for pushing, he's using his HP for pushing because he has Rage, and he's saving that SP for the critical resist rolls. So that's the thoughts behind that. And then the reason I gave him Soldier, he's a barbarian. He's adventuring to get treasure and to collect his spoils. So now his great axe, which would normally take up 2 slots of 5, that would only give him 3 slots left for treasure to carry back. His great axe is a 2-handed item. That's why it takes up 2 slots. Now that's not taking up slots of his 5. He has 5 additional slots to carry treasure back, so he can get all the loot, and now he can carry it back, sell it for supply. He can level up quicker or buy upgraded items and consumables and stuff like that. The only other items I gave him to start is a ration and a potion. Rations just heal 1 HP, and potions are 1d6. If they're tier 1 potions, they heal 1d6. I do recommend letting characters suggest all characters take 1 potion into character creation. Don't let them have more than that, because stocking up on potions is really strong at level 1. Next up, I made Paladin. His name's Jarl. That's another character name I've used for a long time. And this is a protector, defender type Paladin. He's going to be heavily armored and use his holy powers for protecting his allies. So for his stats, he has minus on agility. He has disadvantage with agility because he's heavily armored. And he has positive on spirit. That could go also to brawn, but spirit fits because he's also he's a holy character. He's going to eventually pick up the holy spellcasting. Didn't start with it, but he will have that eventually. I went all in on protector and defender right now, but spirit fits the character concept really well. He's going to be really good at commanding and carousing and charisma stuff when he's not fighting. So that's really helpful there. And he's not necessarily relying on brawn for smashing and stuff as much, because he's got feats that back up all of that defense nature. So I gave him adaptable for his heritage, and that lets him have 1 additional feat at character creation, and that's really strong for this build. For job, I gave him blacksmith. And Blacksmith lets his crafted items be one tier higher. So his armor, his shield, his weapon is going to start at tier 2, which that's really strong. I'll tie that to a feat and explain why that's so strong if you don't already understand the tier system. So for feats, what I was just speaking of, he has Sentinel. Sentinel gives +2 wear on his shield. So now his level 1 shield is now a level 2 shield with 4 wear. So that means his shield can block harm 4 times for 2d6. Compared to most characters, they get 1d6 one-time use for their level 1, their tier 1 armors and shields. So now he is incredibly tanky. He also has tier 2 mail armor, which is going to be 2 more uses of 2d6 harm reduction. So he has total 6 2d6 uses of reducing harm. Now the other half of that is I gave him Holy Shield as a feat. Holy Shield says your shield and armor can also reduce magical harm. So normally armor and shields can only reduce physical harm. If you're getting hit by something physical, you can use your armor and reduce it by your tier d6. But Holy Shield lets him also reduce magical harm. And the final feat, or the third feat I gave him, is Protector. Protector lets him spend 1 SP to redirect harm from an ally to himself. So now he's using all that defensive power not only to protect himself, but to protect allies. He can jump in the way and raise that shield against a spell or an oncoming attack, an arrow or an axe, and he can block it, and he's going to face that consequence instead of his ally. And lastly, I gave him Lay on Hands, which it's not updated in the PDF if you have the playtest document, but instead of raising a downed ally, because any heal can do that, it instead fully heals an ally. And this recharges with downtime. It's a one-use thing as well until you have downtime. So Lay on Hands is just a full heal. You just call down the blessing of your deity and fully heal an ally. So that's really powerful. That also goes into, he's protecting his allies, but also if he can't protect them, if he can't get there to raise his shield and take that harm for them, and they go down, now he can full heal them and they pop back up, which combined with some of these other builds would be incredibly powerful. That's why some of the advice in the GM section specifically says don't pull your punches. Once players start playing this game, even though it's such a simple system and it's narratively driven with the dice mechanics, they have a ton of mechanical power. Next up, let's do the Rogue, because this one's a little bit different. This is Hoth. He's a tricky thief is the concept here. He has plus on agility, of course, and he has minus on spirit. He doesn't have much charisma. People don't like him. He's also going to be weaker to things that test his willpower. Maybe that ties in thematically. He's maybe he's open to doing a little bit more dirty, underhanded things. So his heritage is lucky. He gets an additional luck point at downtime, and luck can be spent to reroll any of his die results. Most characters get 1. If you have lucky, you get 2. That also fits into the risky thief type play. His job is alchemist. I want him to be able to craft potions and flasks and poisons. And I also gave him Trickster, so that he has... Trickster is a feat that lets you cast tier 1 arcane spells for 1 feat point. That's different from the regular arcane spellcasting, because all the other spellcasting feats cost 2 feat points. So if you choose a spellcasting feat, you can cast any tier spell, your level plus 1 tier as you level up. But Trickster lets you just get arcane spells for 1 feat point, but it's limited to tier 1. So you want to dabble in a little bit of simple magic as a rogue, or even as a warrior or something like that, or a bard. But you don't want to invest 2 feat points to it, because that's a very expensive investment that takes up a lot of your character build options, because magic in this game is very powerful and free flowing, and it lets you do a lot of things. So combining Trickster with Alchemist, now instead of just creating potions and regular chemical potions and flasks and poisons, he can create magical potions as well. So now he has magical potions that fits in. He can cast a little bit of arcane magic, illusions and stuff like that. A little bit of telekinesis, manipulate small objects with his magic. And then I gave him Shadow Step, which lets him spend 1 stress point to teleport short distances through darkness or shadows, which fits really well with this whole little bit of magic, arcane, roguish thief. And lastly, so that he's got a little bit of combat power, I gave him Ambush. I say a little bit, but Ambush is extremely powerful. Ambush says, deal max harm when attacking an unaware enemy. So the rogue, this character sneaks in, he uses Shadow Step to get behind an enemy that doesn't even know he's there, and then boom, stabs his dagger in their back. And instead of rolling 1d6 or 2d6, he just does 6 or 12 or more damage, depending on the tier of his weapon. So he's using his potions, his magic, and his trickiness, and then boom, striking at the right time and just dealing maximum harm. So that's a really fun, really potent build for that type of character. I could build a traditional rogue and thief build without magic would have things like Acquaintance, which lets them spend SP to use call on the local contact for information or help. That one fits really well with like city campaign play, or tracking down the location of something. Give them Daredevil, which lets them accomplish a great feat of dexterity without an action roll, similar to the warrior one with the great strength. Or Perception is a really good one, where they can spend 1 stress to sense the source of most danger in a space. That could be like, I want to see if there's a trap in this room, or if I'm in a crowded location, and maybe you're in a tavern, and you're not sure about these people. You could spend perception. You could use perception to see, is there someone in this crowded tavern that's dangerous, that maybe is waiting for the right time to ambush me, or is following me, and something like that. So perception is a really great ability, and that's a great one that anyone could take. It's under the roguish section, because traditionally rogues are your trap finders and stuff like that. But anyone could take that because it is build your own class. So you could build a cleric with perception, and they're watching out for the party to make sure things don't happen before they happen. They're perceiving the dangers. And lastly, I built a wizard. This is going to be your traditional spell slinging, blasting spells off wizard. And I really maximized that with this character build. He's going to do one thing and one thing really well. And that is going to be blasting off as many spells as often as possible. He's not going to be making them much stronger, but he's going to be able to do them a lot. So the way I did that was his heritage is vulnerable. So he has +2 SP from the start. So he has 9 SP, and SP is used for casting spells. His job is scribe. So he's crafting his own scrolls. And scrolls, as I mentioned in a previous video in this game, are very strong because they let you cast spells without spending stress. You still have to roll for it, which is why he has, of course, plus on the mind stat. He has advantage on mind rolls, which is what you use for reading scrolls and casting them. But you don't have to spend stress for it. So scribe and crafting your own scrolls basically lets you turn supply into spell slots for later on. You're using your supply to make spells, and then later in combat, you're casting those spells without using stress. So it's a really, really powerful ability or job for magic users. His feats, you have 3 feats. I gave him arcane spellcasting, which takes up 2 because it's a spellcasting feat. So he's casting all of your illusions, your telepathy, telekinesis, teleports. What else? Sleep, light, polymorph, animating objects, invisibility, that type of thing. That's what arcane spells are all about. Very traditional wizard stuff. And then the last piece of his character build is Life Tap. And this one is the one that really makes it all come together. Life Tap lets you spend HP for spellcasting as well as spending SP. So now, instead of just having 9 SP for spellcasting, he has 16 SP if you spend life. So he can fire off a ton of spells at level 1. Basically, that lets him cast a bunch of level 2 spells, tier 2 spells, because you can cast one higher than your current level, as often as he could normally cast tier 1. A regular character could cast tier 1. And And the next feat I would take with him when he levels up, I would definitely take Spellslinger. Spellslinger lets you spend 1 less SP to cast your favorite spell. And you can change that when you level up. Every level, you could change it to a new spell if you'd like. So now he's spending SP only to cast 1 tier higher spells. So you can fire off infinite tier 1 spells of your favorite. So if you choose, let's say Blink, he wants to teleport around a lot. So he's slippery and people can't catch him. And tier 1 teleport would be like a short range teleport. So you're just blinking around the room. You're not teleporting great distances. So he's firing off that for free and then using his HP and his SP to cast other spells like sleeping or pushing, force pushing with magical force, or telekinesis, manipulating the room and the environment with telekinesis. That's what he's spending all of his SP and HP with through Life Tap. Life Tap is also really powerful because if you have healing capabilities like healing potions or a character that'll heal you, then you can just keep channeling HP into magic. And that's a really powerful feedback, which is why magic rolls fall under the same narrative D20 roll, where things can go bad and your magic can backfire or the wrong effect can happen and stuff like that. Because magic users will be casting a lot of spells in this game, so they have to have an element of danger. So that's the 4 like archetypical warrior, cleric, rogue, wizard, with a little bit of flavor there with like, especially the rogue, I built him a little more arcane, a little more magical trickster. The fighter, I went full on Conan barbarian. Then the paladin is very tanky protector. And then the wizard is just like blasting off as many spells as possible, Spellslinger style. So let me know what you think about that. I hope this gives you an overview of how much depth and versatility is in the character creation options, as well as how strong some of it can be. Things like the paladin having so many uses of armor and shields for both physical and magical at level 1. That's going to define how he plays throughout his entire character's life and campaign. So let me know what you think about that. I definitely want to do more character builds. One of my favorites I've built in this system is a Shadow Knight, and he's a similarly heavily armored character like the Paladin, but instead of having feats that protect his allies and stuff, he's got necromancy magic. So he's got a little skeleton servant that's following him around, taking hits for him and stuff. But then if he gets into the thick of it, he's got a sword and shield, and he's got Sentinel for heavy, absorbing more damage and stuff like that. So it's just like this relentless Shadow Knight, Necromancer, Dark Knight type of character. So you can build a lot of really fun things, and the mechanical options back them up, or the character build options back them up mechanically in this game. Hopefully you really see that. Tell me if you've got any fun ideas. If you want me to build a type of character, if you want me to build like a bard that's mixed in with like fighting, there's a spellcasting feat perfect for that. It's called Battle Mage. And it gives you advantage when you spell cast while engaged in melee combat. So you could do a traditional Gish type character really easily with that feat and get bonuses to all this stuff. So if you have a character idea, post in the comments, and in the next character build video, I'll go over how I would build that and how that would play out. And then as we get to the crowdfunding, I'm definitely going to do some of these character build videos as well as example scenes. I'll have like a couple scenes and then run through what playing them would look like and do some dice rolls and actually play it out for, a good example of play, as well as showing off the character builds. That's all for today. I appreciate you. Let me know your feedback on this. If you have any ideas or questions, happy to answer, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.